What occurs if a diver ascends really quickly without taking decompression breaks into account? The story of a 21-year-old scuba diver who had to return to the surface swiftly to avoid running out of oxygen will be covered in today's film. Sadly, when he surfaced again, he had to deal with the repercussions. Continue reading to learn what happened to him. The United States Navy's Spiegel Grove was a dock landing ship of the Thomaston class. The vessel was given the name Spiegel Grove in honor of Rutherford B. Hayes, the 19th President of the United States, who lived there and owned an estate near Fremont, Ohio. After 33 years of service, it was retired in 1989. In May 2002, the ship was sunk to create an artificial reef. Currently, the shipwreck is situated on the Dixie Shoal, roughly 10 kilometers, 6 miles, away from the Florida Keys National Marine Sanctuary. The ship can reach 510 feet, 160 meters, in length and 84 feet, 26 meters, in width. About 60 feet, 18 meters, below the water's surface is the top deck. Its deck, which is approximately 135 feet, 41 meters, underwater, has a hull that is a labyrinth within it. When silt is stirred up in Spiegel Grove, vision often decreases to almost nothing. Due to the depth of the wreck, only experienced divers should dive there. Matthew Devleger, a Calvin College student from Grand Rapids, Michigan, was 21 years old at the time of the plunge. In addition, Matthew was a certified scuba diver with 5 or 6 years of experience. At Jules Undersill Lodge off the Florida Keys, close to Key Largo, he has gone diving multiple times. He also did a dive off the Great Barrier Reef in Australia. His most recent dive excursion aimed to have a close-up look at the shipwreck. He was eager to learn more about the USS Spiegel Grove firsthand. The USS Spiegel Grove was the destination of a dive trip that Matthew Devleger, his twin brother Andrew, and their father Robert took on December 28, 2010. The group was having a great time underwater after their dive proceeded without a hitch. Father Robert left the pair in the deep to enjoy their dives while he rose to the surface because he was diving with a smaller air cylinder and couldn't stay for very long. At a depth of approximately 135 feet, Matthew and his twin brother Andrew were admiring the beautiful sight of fish swimming near the USS Spiegel Grove, 41 meters. Matthew was astonished to learn that he was already low on air as he and Andrew continued to enjoy their underwater trip. Matthew was overcome with panic, and all of his thoughts were focused on finding a way to surface before his air supply ran out. He simply wanted to leave the water, and his dread may have been brought on by memories of other divers who had perished after running out of oxygen while diving. Matthew didn't want this to be his situation, so he decided to find a way out of the hole before it happened to him. Andrew was informed by Matthew that he needed to return to the surface. Instead of taking into account the requirement for him to conserve his air while still being able to safely surface, he left his brother and began his ascent. When a diver needs to quickly ascend to the surface in an emergency, they use fins, so Matthew decided to do the same. Matthew may not have thought about the potential risks of finned ascension, or he may have been under the influence of narcotics, which might have influenced his judgment. Whatever the reason, Matthew began to slowly climb at a slight angle. When he finned, the air in his vest inflated more than usual, which caused him to soar more quickly than he anticipated. Matthew was ascending unusually quickly, and when Andrew noticed this, he realized something was wrong with him. He was moving too quickly and didn't even stop to decompress until he reached the surface. Matthew arrived at the surface in roughly 5 minutes, as opposed to the 20 minutes he anticipated. Every diver is aware of the risks involved with returning to the surface too rapidly. This wasn't any different, possibly worse, than what Matthew would feel following the swift rise. When Matthew arrived at the boat, he removed his swim fins. Then he started to experience some physical unease. He started gasping for oxygen and taking short breaths, and he felt numbness in his chest and torso. Additionally, he lost feeling in his legs. They promptly requested assistance from the U.S. Coast Guard when the situation started to deteriorate. Soon after, an ambulance arrived to take Matthew to the hospital from the dock. If we were to look into what led to Matthew's mishap, it was clear that by the time he realized he was out of oxygen while in the water, it was already too late. All divers need to be aware that their air supply directly affects their ability to survive during their dive experiences. Sufficient air must be taken in accordance with the dive plan. The longer you intend to stay, the more air you'll need. To avoid being hurt by the pressure of ascending too quickly, you must also pay close attention to how much air is still in your cylinder. Their failure to communicate as a team during their dive was another problem with their dive. Their father left his two sons in the water earlier when he ascended. Additionally, if Matthew and his twin brother Andrew had cooperated as a team, buddy breathing might have been taken into account. Buddy breathing is a life-saving technique where two people share one air supply and take turns breathing from it. Although Matthew wanted to use fin descent to preserve air, he failed to take into account the fact that doing fin descent would require more oxygen for his muscles. He would have thought of another feasible solution to preserve his air. He would have attempted injecting some gas into his buoyancy compensator to create positive buoyancy, then manipulating his buoyancy compensator to manage his ascent, which might have somewhat prolonged his gas supply till he reached the surface. If precautions were taken both before and during the dive, the accident may have been prevented. And even as soon as he became aware that he was running low on air, he might still ascend safely if he did not succumb to fear. At this stage, panicking is counterproductive because it only makes the situation worse. Fear kills more quickly than the thing you are eluding. To avoid a similar incident in the future, all divers must take this as a lesson and plan accordingly. You would have believed that when he was in the hospital, young Matthew would have accepted his fate or given in to depressive thoughts. But Matthew was bursting with life inside of himself. He had a lot of optimism and thought he would get well. He wasn't the only individual in that situation with a good outlook. His family and friends also shared it. God works in mysterious ways, and it's hard to recognize that now, his brother Andrew said. But we have complete faith and belief in God, and we're taking it day by day, he added. A miracle is what we're asking for. After a period of recovery, Matthew was transferred from the neuroscience intensive care unit of Jackson Memorial Hospital to a rehabilitation hospital, where he would undergo a number of therapies in an effort to regain his prior level of health. He spent 6 to 8 weeks in the rehabilitation facility, taking part in a variety of exercises designed to improve his health. His arms and legs were among the several areas that eventually regained feeling after having previously lost it. If you follow all the guidelines and take the necessary safety precautions, diving may be fun and safe. Dive safely, all you deep water explorers out there. We appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. If you liked what you saw, click the bell icon, like, and subscribe buttons to be notified when we post another thrilling diving story.